The president can't commit a crime because he's the president news yesterday. Well, now we've got the next phase of the response, also from the president's lawyers. It is also a little weird. It's a little hard to make heads or tails of. But basically what the president's lawyers started arguing today is that they are not just arguing with reporters, they're not just trying to shift the narrative about how people describe what's going on in the investigation. President's lawyers are now disputing the existence of an important new news story about the progress of the scandal and the investigation. They're not fighting about the importance of this news story or the legal significance of this news story. They're literally disputing whether or not this story exists. This is the story, for the record. This is the original version of this story. It's the English language version of a German newspaper called Handelsblatt. I speak as much German as I do Russian, so forgive me if my pronunciation is an insult to German speakers. Handelsblatt is how I think you say it. And you can see the lead of the article. Deutsche Bank has been served. Mueller's Trump-Russia investigation engulfs Deutsche Bank. Quote, Deutsche Bank has received a subpoena from the U.S. Special Counsel investigating possible collusion between President Donald Trump's campaign and Russia. Now, this is a German news story that is about a German bank, so they are understandably focused on the implications of this for Germany and for this German bank. But after Handelsblatt initially broke that story this morning, then it was picked up and reported out by Reuters and by Bloomberg News, and it very quickly became clear in our country that this isn't just an important story for some big important German bank. This is an important story for our presidency. And that's because of two important things about this particular German bank. The first important thing to know about Deutsche Bank in this story is that Deutsche Bank is up to its German neck in Russian money laundering. Let's say I'm a Russian crook. I'm a thief. I grew up like practicing judo with Vladimir Putin or something, and so he has given me leave to steal stuff, to like pillage pension funds or strip all the assets out of some formerly state-run company, right? So I'm a Russian bad guy. I've got some ill-gotten gains. I've got some stolen money, and I would like to enjoy my stolen money. And so in order to do so, I have to secret those funds away somewhere where they won't get noticed by law enforcement, where they won't get taxed, and where anybody who might prosecute me or persecute me for the way that I illegally got this money, they won't be able to find it and reclaim it and trace it back to me. So let's say, just for the sake of argument, the amount of money that I, crook, want to get out of Russia is like $10 million. If I want to get $10 million out of Russia, I ideally want to convert it from rubles into some other currency, preferably dollars. In order for me to get that money out of Russia without anybody noticing, it has to look like that money is leaving the country as some part of legitimate transaction. And on the down low, slyly, I probably also need it to be okay with Putin that I'm taking that money out, because he tends to know these things. That's where Deutsche Bank comes in. There's a lot of different ways to launder money. But from about 2011 to 2015, Deutsche Bank ran this scheme that was not very complicated at all when it comes to money laundering schemes. But because it went through a big, legit-looking European bank, this scheme they were running, it was effective at moving money not just once, but lots and lots and lots of times. Tons and tons of money out of Russia and into the West. And they were able to keep this scheme going for years before people finally started to realize that even though this was a legit-looking European bank, this was a huge, fairly simple criminal operation that they were running with Russian illegal money. And it was pretty simple. I mean, usually money laundering is designed to be purposely complicated so you can't follow the money. In this case, it was a simple scheme. Right, here's how it worked. You can't just ship your money from Russia, like wire it to the Cayman Islands or Cyprus or New York or London and deposit it, right? You'll get caught doing it that way if you're a Russian crook. So instead, what you do is you say, I don't just want to send my money abroad to park it somewhere. I don't want to just open an account in a foreign country and move it there. I can't do that with money like this. Instead, I want to buy something. So you need to have something that you're going to buy for a lot of money. So you have somebody abroad go to Deutsche Bank, and they tell Deutsche Bank abroad, hey, I have something to sell. I have like this highlighter. and I want to sell this highlighter, and the price of this highlighter I want to sell is $10 million. Miraculously, simultaneously, at that same moment, you pop up in Moscow with your $10 million in ill-gotten rubles. And you say, hello, Deutsche Bank Moscow office. Do you know anybody who's selling something I might be able to buy for $10 million? I was thinking about maybe investing in a highlighter. Do you know anybody who's selling one for $10 million? And Deutsche Bank says, you know, actually, we can help you out with that. We can do that transaction for you. We can handle that. And so then think about how the money moves, right? I'm the dude in Russia. I hand $10 million in dirty rubles over to Deutsche Bank's Moscow office. They say, thank you very much. You've now just purchased a highlighter. Over in their other office abroad, in London or wherever, that Deutsche Bank's office, they pay their client $10 million in euros or dollars or whatever, and they, collect the highlighter that's just been sold. And that's it. That's how the money moves. $10 million goes in Moscow. $10 million pops out in London. And thanks to the fake jerry-rigged sale price of that item they were supposedly buying and selling there, that $10 million highlighter, you just moved $10 million from Moscow to London using the offices of Deutsche Bank to do it. And your ill-gotten $10 million that you stole from little old ladies in Moscow somewhere, that's no longer on the books as money that you stole from those little old ladies. It's now money that you can access in the West because it's the proceeds of a perfectly lawful transaction conducted with a totally legit, big-name European bank. That's how it works. I mean, they don't literally do it selling highlighters or some other tangible good. They do it with real stock trades instead. But that was the principle. They used real stocks. They used a real bank. But it was all fake for the purposes of just moving money. It's a scheme they called mirror trading. Right? And you can see how the mirror works there, right? I want to sell something for $10 million. I want to buy something for $10 million. And then poof, the money moves. Somebody ostensibly selling in London or Cyprus or some tax shelter island somewhere, and then somebody else buying in Moscow. And there were something like 6,000 of these fake mirror trades. And in most of these cases, the buyer and the seller were actually the same entity. There were two different people who were really buying and selling anything to anyone else. These were just fake sales events. Fake stock sales. They used real stock, but the whole point of it was just a way to move tons and tons and tons of illegal Russian money out of Russia and into the West. And I mean tons. This was multiple billions of dollars. More than 6,000 trades using multiple Deutsche Bank offices over a period of years. And part of the reason they got away with it for so long and to such a huge extent is because this big, legit-seeming bank was involved. Right? They couldn't have done it without Deutsche Bank facilitating these trades. And Deutsche Bank couldn't have done it without really good connections in Russia, because nobody gets